I had one of those mornings that happens when you're speaking at an event. So we're going to start in prayer. Not that I don't always, but just especially this morning, I just need a little extra. We came in and the room is normally set up and it wasn't. And so we had to not only get all the normal stuff we had to do, we had to haul these tables and chairs in here, and that triggered a hot flash, and now I still can't come down. So if you want to intercede for me on that, I'd be super grateful, because I'm super overheated. I tried to wear my hair down for all of you that tell me that I need to wear my hair down more, and it just didn't happen. So Heavenly Father, we just thank you for your presence, Lord. We thank you that you go before us in all things. And so we just invite you into this space. We invite your angels to surround us and just be with us this morning. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, somebody's interceding for me because I already feel a little bit less hot, so thank you. So I'm going to talk about neurofeedback this morning. This is something that I've added to my business within the last 6 months. But I'm not new to neurofeedback. I have been aware of neurofeedback for probably a good decade. It has transformed a lot of things in my home, and that's how I got into it in the first place. But if you've heard me talk about the somatic body work that I do, that's really where most of my business is. And it helps regulate the nervous system within the body. So if we are living in fight or flight, or if we're living down here in hypoarousal and shutdown, what somatic body work does is it gets rid of the lies that we're carrying within our physiology, the wounds that we're carrying within our physiology, so we can live here and we can live regulated. But what I was finding as my business continued to grow is that people were spending a little bit more time in that center section where we all want to live. However, once the lies were getting healed from their health was improving. So the wounds were leaving the body from the left and they were getting a little bit healed. However, what I was finding was they now knew the truth about how God saw them. They knew their identity, but they were having trouble walking it out, right? Because if you've been carrying around trauma and wounds for 25, 30 years, or whatever number it is, those neural pathways that align with that wounding and those lies are really powerful. And so people would get stuck between, I know the truth, I just don't know how to believe it. Right? And so I started praying about, what can I do, Lord? How can I help, right? Because I'd also experienced that in my own healing journey, where there's this tension between, I know the truth, but how do I actually walk that out and stop self-sabotaging myself and then returning to that place where I'm triggered and in fight or flight? And the Lord reminded me of my own son's journey. So if you haven't heard me talk about my son, my youngest has a severe sensory processing disorder, pretty extreme ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and he is now 13 and just, all the things that teens carry. But when he was really young, we had done years of occupational therapy, which helps strengthen the brain, which helps the left and the right side of the brain work together, which helps the brain and body connect. And during that time, we had done neurofeedback. And it had helped a ton in just regulating his nervous system and allowing his brain and body to work together more accurately. During that time, though, back then, because that was 10 plus years ago, neurofeedback's technology, you had to be focused, right? And for a child that struggles with being focused, we saw results, but it wasn't the amazing results that I heard so many other people talk about. So I started praying about, okay, Lord, if there's an answer out there, I need to find it. And so it wasn't long after that, a good friend of mine, who has a son with extreme autism, told me that they had started Neurooptimal and how his executive functioning had skyrocketed since they had implemented this Neurooptimal. And if you don't know what executive functioning is, do I need to go over that? Does anybody know what that is? Okay, so executive functioning is being able to complete normal tasks. So in my home, it looked like, although my son had grown a ton, getting himself up, getting himself dressed, getting ready for the day took a lot of me managing all of those behaviors because he kept getting sidetracked, right? So even though he's 13, and a typical 13-year-old would be able to do all those things without having mom or dad manage and intercede for that, it took about 10,000 reminders from the time that he got up to the time that we walked out the door to go to school to keep him on track. And so my girlfriend that had a son with autism was experiencing a lot of the same things. And he's a couple years older than my son, but same thing where they were homeschooling him, trying to keep him on task, and they were using so much of their mental energy just trying to keep him on task that they actually weren't gaining that much. So they implemented NeuroOptimal, which is the neurofeedback company that I use, and just saw tons of gains. And so I started praying about if I add that to my business or not. And I prayed about it for probably a good year. And then my girlfriend came over with her whole family with the device, and all of us tried it. And just because you don't want to make a huge purchase if you've never tried it, right? And the company is in Canada, and it seemed like a cheaper option to have her come over and try it than to drive to Canada or fly to Canada to try it. And during this season, I'm going to back up just a little bit to share the rest of the story, because during this season, my mom had just died. Right? And that's part of the reason that we had delayed and not purchased this equipment. And one of the things in my own healing journey that the Lord had conquered big time was emotional eating. However, both of my parents died back to back. And I took care of my mom for 18 months right after my dad died. So even though I had all the tools, emotional eating returned with a vengeance. And this was about 6 or 8 weeks after my mom had passed that my girlfriend had come over. And I tried it and was kind of praying about it and kind of forgot about it and was like, well, the Lord will tell me when it's time, right? And so about 6 weeks after she had come over, I was just praying into it and saying, Lord, like, just give me a sign if that's something I'm supposed to implement into my business, because this is a significant investment. And I heard him audibly, which doesn't happen a whole lot in my life. I heard him audibly say, tell me when the last time you emotionally ate was. And it had been 6 weeks since I'd done one session, and it had completely disappeared because I just strengthened those positive neural pathways in my brain again, and it just helped me conquer it without even realizing it. It had been 6 weeks. So after that, I was like, okay, where do I sign? How do I get this, into my practice? Because people need this, right? Like, I had all the tools at this point, you guys. I had been free from emotional eating for years, and then a life event triggered it again. It was my coping mechanism. And I had prayed, I'd had prayer ministry, I had all the people that I go to when I need help work with me, and I couldn't kick it. One session and it was gone. So pretty powerful stuff, right? Hopefully I didn't get off track here. So in the simplest form, what neurofeedback does is it strengthens the healthy neural pathways within the brain, and it also helps your brain create new neural pathways. So that's the amazing thing about this, is that our brain can create new healthy neural pathways, right? So this graphic is supposed to represent on the left-hand side a weaker brain, for lack of a better term, right? And then on the right side, it's created these new healthy neural pathways and helps strengthen them. So it can help in all areas of your life. So imagine if you could just feel calmer, feel more focused, and feel more you. That is the testimony I hear the most, is I just feel more me. Without all these external things that are super good for you, affirmations, all the extra things that we can do to strengthen the healthy stuff, but that takes a lot of effort, right? And you're trying to overcome from the negative to the positive in doing that. This is a passive thing that you can do to help strengthen those healthy things that we read about in the Bible and most of us want, and sometimes they just feel unattainable, right? Okay, so we also refer to it as brain training, because this is not a medical device. What it does is it teaches your brain to function in its healthiest way. And I try to keep a lot of the science out of this. Now, if you're one of those people that loves to hear about the science, I can definitely provide you with those resources, but most of it is above my pay grade, so I try to keep it in its simplest form so people can understand it. Does that make sense? Yeah, I like a lot of feedback, so yes. Does that make sense? Thank you, thank you. It's very helpful. Okay. So Neurooptimal is the company, and it's just designed to bring balance and resilience to the brain in its simplest form. Okay. Think of it like a personal trainer for your brain. I love that. So how many of you have been in a stressful season of life where all of a sudden you feel so overwhelmed that simple tasks become hard?
Never.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I love you. I know in my life, like I was raised in a lot of dysfunction and a lot of trauma. So even after I had gone through a lot of healing, it took a lot of mental effort to overcome a lot of that garbage thinking, right? Now, even if you didn't have a home life like I did, we all can be susceptible to feeling overwhelmed, feeling like our brains are foggy, because anytime we get stressed, adrenaline and cortisol are released within our body. And those are great things that happen if we're being chased by a bear, or we have to lift a car off a kid, or do all those things that require superhuman strength. Not great if we're trying to sit at a desk and think and work through something, or even just survive in our home if we have adrenaline and cortisol pumping all of the time, right? So neurofeedback gives your brain the tools to just adapt to whatever's going on. I have lots of testimonies from the handful of times that I've been using it. However, I will say the biggest thing is my capacity to carry stress. That is the biggest thing. I noticed that I'm not doing this anymore, and I've had lots of tools in my back pocket for the handful of years to come back to that homeostasis. Now I find I'm not even needing them as much because I just feel balanced all of the time. Even when my morning is totally hijacked like this morning, like I still felt like I could handle all of it, right? Of course, I'm gonna seek prayer and seek the Lord in all of that, because that's what we should all be doing, but I didn't feel like I was doing this, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, gosh, you guys are good learners. I appreciate when you respond. Okay, so I've already gone over some of these, but I like lots of visuals when I'm sharing. So your focus improves, your sleep improves, overall well-being improves. I have never slept better in my whole life than I have been this last handful of months. I have struggled with sleep my entire life. Now, a lot of the healing and things that I did years ago helped a ton with that, but I wake up feeling so refreshed, and I wake up an hour before my alarm most of the time now, so then I have this extra time to just spend with the Lord or get tasks done that I need to get done throughout the day, and I don't wake up feeling like I'm already behind. Anybody else wake up and feel like they're already behind for the day? Yeah. Feel free to ask questions too, you guys. Excuse me. Okay. So how does it work? I have some notes for this because it's a lot of science. It's not that much science. It's okay, you can laugh at that as being funny. It's not that funny if I have to explain it to you guys. Okay, so when you are hooked up to the machine, which I have it over here if you guys want to look at it afterwards, these 5 sensors get hooked up to your brain, and it goes into the computer, and the computer mirrors back to your brain where it needs to be strengthened. So it will go after the most crucial area of your brain at that time. So people will come to me and say, well, you know, I really want to see the ADHD symptoms in my family, you know, go down or whatever. With this particular device, it actually doesn't allow you to pick what you want it to go after. What it does is it goes after the most crucial area of the brain for your best overall health. So what people will notice first, most of the time, is better sleep. Because better sleep is where our body naturally heals and is able to restore, and then the rest of the symptoms improve and follow. Does that make sense? There's several other, and why I hit so closely on that is there's lots of neurofeedback devices out there now. And some of them you pick the program that you want to go after. So for instance, there's one that I'm thinking of in particular. What is it called? I'm blanking on what the name of it is. But we prayed about using that one for forever and ultimately decided against it because you had to pick a program. So like there was 15 sessions you had to do for focus or ADHD program. And then if you wanted to go after sleep, then you had to pay, 15 or 20 sessions for that. However, the brain is always going to go after what the brain needs the most for your best overall health. So if you're over here on focus and what your child's body needs the most is sleep so it can recover, you're actually not going to see results and you're going to waste a lot of money, or you're not going to see the maximum results. Does that make sense? Yes. So what I loved about this one is that it would tell the brain what your body and brain needs the most in this moment for your best overall health. So although you might need a few more sessions to see the result that you want, it's going to be what your body actually needs in that moment. Making sense? Okay. This is also the tool that I have seen help the most in helping clients that are stuck in hypoarousal. So hypoarousal looks like shutdown or disassociation or depression, the world would call that. A lot of times people will do years and years of therapy or years and years of inner healing, and they can't get that excess energy their body needs to come up out of hypoarousal. This is the best tool that I personally have seen in pulling people out of that hypoarousal, because their body's shut down and it needs that extra surge of energy to pull it out, and most of their bodies don't want to do that. Any questions on that? Thank you. Who said that? Was that Mel? Oh, yeah. Love Mel. She's my favorite audience member right now. We already just touched on this, but for me, my ability to adapt to stress is the greatest. I'll probably say that like 6 times because there's been a lot of good fruit I've gotten out of this. But because of the way that I was raised in a lot of dysfunction, my capacity for stress was very low. Even after I'd done a lot of healing, I felt like I was always fighting, getting myself out of fight or flight. Even when little life events would happen after I'd lived in that center section, that homeostasis for a while. Now after doing neurofeedback, like I was saying this morning, I don't feel like I have to fight it all the time. It's not something I have to manage on a regular basis. Now, of course, I'm human, so there's times when I do get dysregulated and have to implement some of my tools, but for the most part, it's much less. Oh, improve focus, I can't even tell you. So the last, 8-10 weeks, I've had a completely full schedule, which I'm doing prayer ministry all day long. I've added neurofeedback. I wrote 2 books and I designed some flashcards within 10 weeks because, yeah, and I'm not saying that to brag, I'm saying that without this, I would absolutely not been able to do that, right? Because I spent the 10 months before that completely in rest and recovering from the last 3 years that I had with my parents, and then just decided I was going for it, and then halfway through I was like, well, I'll just write this book too, and I'll just add this, and I don't recommend it, but I was able to pull that off, and there was a time I never would have been able to pull that off at all. Talked about better sleep. I can't tell you how good my sleep is right now. And my son, the one that I was telling you about, he has struggled with sleep his entire life. And he will tell you, because he's 13, that neurofeedback did nothing for him. However, I had him fill out a before survey, and I've lived with him for 13 years, and he has never slept through the night on a regular basis, ever, his whole life. And the last 6 months since he's been doing neurofeedback, he sleeps through the night almost every single night, and he gets up on his own, showers, gets ready, eats breakfast, packs his bag and his lunch without being reminded, and that never would have happened 6 months ago. But because he's 13, he'll still tell you it didn't help. Yes?
I'm just wondering, like, after you are hooked up to the apparatus, do you just watch for different fruit, like increased focus or better sleep, or are there other things that you do once you know where the weak part of the brain is or what it needs?
Yeah, so I have everybody fill out a survey before they start, and so there's a list of 105 symptoms that have been proven to be improved with neurofeedback. And so people fill that out, and then what I have them do is after 12 sessions, which is what's recommended, I have them fill it out again just to see where the fruit has shown up. So there's all kinds of symptoms that maybe you would never attribute to neurofeedback, like weak fingernails. So there's a seat right up here if you want to come up. Weak fingernails are a sign that your overall immune system is very low, and that's one of the symptoms that they talk about, because when you're getting great sleep and you're less stressed and cortisol and adrenaline are pumping less, your immune system can go after other areas of your body. So it's not a medical device. It cannot cure anything. However, it does help the body naturally do what it was designed to do. Does that answer your question? Okay. So the more stuff that you have, the more sessions you're going to need. So they recommend everybody do at least 12 so you can see tangible fruit, and they recommend that you do those pretty consistently, right? So I would say within 30 days. Instead of people coming in 12 times to measure that, what I actually do is I rent it out for 30 days at a time, and then the whole family can use it if they choose. Excuse me. And then they can actually get up to 60 sessions in, because you can do it twice a day. Now, you don't have to do it that way, but I charge less to take it home for 30 days than I do for you to come into 12 individual sessions, because then I don't have to be there, right? I can teach you how to do it. So that benefits pretty much everyone. Okay, we've probably touched on some of these, but I'm going to go over all my points just so I can feel like I do my due diligence. Overall mental health and well-being. I have a client right now who has the device, and she's still living in a situation that's not super healthy. Lots of trauma has happened in the past, and although that has improved, she still doesn't feel super safe in the home. Even though those physical traumas are not happening anymore, just being in proximity, she still just doesn't feel super safe. But she's not in a position to leave yet. However, she started doing neurofeedback about 3 weeks ago, and she's like, I feel more me than I have in over 35 years. The other thing that it naturally helps you do is create really good boundaries. If you've had trouble holding boundaries, if you've been in a situation where you felt unsafe. And so it helps strengthen those parts of her brain that knows what's acceptable and how you're being treated and what's not. So I'm not going to draw any conclusions in that situation, but I could see where it's heading, and it's needed to go that way for a really long time. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this already, but the device is hooked up. There's 2 that go on your scalp, right here, right along that ridge on your brain. So we just part the hair and put a little conductive paste on there so it sticks. And then there's 3 that go on the ears. And what that does is it creates a feedback loop within itself so it can mirror and tell the brain exactly where it needs to make shifts and where it needs to be strengthened. So it's very passive. It's done by audio. So remember how I talked about my son? His was done originally when he was 3 by vision. So he had to be focusing on the screen. And although it did help a little bit, I don't think that was the best thing for him. But now, a decade later, the technology has advanced quite a bit. You can do it by audio. So you just have to have one earphone in, which I love, because then he can read a book, he can be on his phone, he can be watching TV. As long as he can hear the music, the neurofeedback is doing what it wants. Now, it's probably not the absolute maximum best thing that he could be doing, but if he's doing it, then I'm happy. I don't want to be fighting him on actually doing the neurofeedback. Does that make sense? And I like it because I usually have my quiet time with the Lord while I'm doing it. I can read my Bible, I can, just soak in the presence of the Lord. I can do all of those things because I don't have to be paying attention to anything and be focused on anything. So I try to start most mornings that way. There's a picture of what it looks like to be hooked up. You can do this on any ages, from birth to the grave. You can be hooked up to it. I've seen great results in just about everyone, either from my own practice or I have a mentor that has been walking along with me, and she's been doing this for about a decade, and she owns 38 devices, so she has tons of clients and tons of testimonies. She used to be a therapist, And she actually saw so much great results with neurofeedback that she retired from being a therapist and only does neurofeedback now. So we talked about this already. It strengthens the healthy neural pathways within the brain. Thank you. I have an AI program that I can tell exactly what I want it to make, and then it makes the graphics. So I appreciate your feedback on that, because helped AI make those. All right, the 4 key benefits of neurofeedback, in my opinion: stress reduction, that improved focus, better sleep, and then the overall mental well-being. So each session is 33 minutes. You can come take a look at it and the device that it does. The music is very soothing, very relaxing. I can feel my body just kind of go, the second I get hooked up. Who in the room has tried it? I know there's a handful of people that have tried it. Yeah. Do you guys have anything to share? What do you want to say?
I specifically really like the music. The music track was like awesome. I am very pictorial and I get visions. I had the most awesome visions. Like, I still go back to them because God just did some major revelations. Like, my brain was doing one thing, but God was using it for another and was healing me at the same time. So I would highly recommend this.
Yeah.
And my question though was also to you, like, are you promoting this so people to come to you, rent from you, or personally buy it?
Whatever they
Or
feel.
all of the above?
Yeah, I can answer that. I mean, if it's something that you wanted to use long-term, I would recommend buying it. And even if I hadn't added it to my practice, I probably would have bought one because I knew that my son was going to need more than 12 sessions, right? I knew that I wanted to do more than 12 sessions because, I mean, let's be honest, we're all a little bit neurospicy in my family. So I knew there was lots of room for improvement. The average family is probably not going to spend $15,000 on it, right? However, it's much cheaper than that to just rent it for a month, and most people see amazing results just by renting it for 30 days. So, yeah, all of the above is open. Yeah.
Is this like a lasting impact, or is this something that you do need to, like, let's say you rent it for 30 days?
Yeah.
And then does it, I don't want to say wear off maybe in the return, but then do you need to kind of keep coming back to it?
Yeah. So the question was, just I'm going to repeat it for the camera, is it something that you need to do forever, or do you keep coming back to it? So in most cases, 12 sessions gets you where you want to go, right? However, in cases like sensory processing, ADHD, my son also has dyslexia and dysgraphia, so I knew that 12 sessions probably wasn't going to be enough because we'd already done it one time. And although we'd seen results, I knew that there was probably more room for improvement. Now, to answer your question, in some cases, 12 is absolutely enough and people see lifelong results. However, it's just like if you're going to the gym. Like if I go to the gym for 12 times and then I go back to eating fast food every day and having a lot of terrible habits, you're probably not going to see lifelong results, right? But in most cases, it's just the brain just needs a little extra to overcome what's ever happening, and then it can hold on to it. Okay? Yes?
So is it frequencies, or what exactly?
It is frequencies. It's audio frequencies that help the brain tell it where to be strengthened.
I'd like to know the science more.
Yeah. And I have the website of the actual company in brochures that go a little bit deeper with the science that people can definitely check out. So, any other questions?
So I may have missed this, or I came in late. Does it impact children with autism, and how? And if you've already answered it.
Yes. Yeah, so the question was, does it impact children with autism? And the answer is yes. Executive functioning is one of the greatest gains that I've seen in families. So the ability to put sequences together, to be able to walk out, one testimony that I told is my youngest son, there we go. My youngest son has a severe sensory processing disorder that can sometimes look like autism, right? And his executive functioning has skyrocketed since we've been using the neurofeedback. He's able to get himself up and ready for school in the morning, pack his lunch, do all of those things, and he could not do that 6-7 months ago. He's also able to keep track of his own homework now. One thing I forgot to share with you guys is, so we homeschooled for the 1st through 5th grade because he just needed so much extra help, and he wasn't even getting fully what he needed in the public school system when we were there for just a very short time. So we homeschooled, and then he decided he wanted to go back to regular school. And so I was terrified because he was a 6th grader who was maybe kindergarten reading level because he had such severe dyslexia. And I was terrified that he would go into this school and, he'd be teased and all the things. Anyway, all that to say, in the middle of his 7th grade year is when we started neurofeedback. And although he was doing well, he has an IEP and he needs a lot, right? We started neurofeedback during Christmas break, and so he'd had 7 sessions, and he was back at school for like 10 days, and his teacher emailed me and said, I don't know what you're doing different. He's a completely different kid. And the following week, he was voted Student of the Month, which has never, you guys, we've had emails and, we've all the bad things, right? Like, we have never gotten a positive one ever in all the years. Like, and when I say homeschool, we homeschooled with another family, so like he still had his own teacher. We've never gotten a positive ever, and he was voted Student of the Month after like 3 weeks of using it. So, yeah. He'll still tell you that that's just a fluke because he's 13. Yes, go ahead.
So even if they have sensory things, they can handle the...
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't like it, I'll be honest, but I bribe him. So. And I have no shame in bribing him to get him to do it. He also has a very strong personality, if you haven't recognized that. And so there's been lots of incentives we've had to do over the years, like even with his dyslexia training and things like that, we've had to incentivize him because nothing helps according to him, even though, he's gone from a kindergarten reading level to being fully caught up in just a few years with the right special ed teacher. So, thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Does it help with I know you're not medically, or you can't medically say.
Yeah.
But does it help with chronic illness or?
Yes. Yeah. So the question was, does it help with chronic illness? And it absolutely does. And I can compliantly say that because, again, back to focus and sleep. So if it allows the body to sleep better, number one, that's where our body's restored naturally. And number two, when we can get our bodies out of fight or flight or out of hypoarousal, right, and function in that homeostasis like it should. So for me, I have had autoimmune stuff since I was 7 years old. And I have been treated, by naturopaths, I've been treated by functional medicine doctors, I've been treated by kinesiologists, and all of that helped, but it was still something I very much had to manage. Since I started neurofeedback, I'm down to 2 supplements, which is the least amount I've been on in over 35 years. And I just don't have to manage a lot of things anymore. My son and I have both been gluten-free for over a decade, not because we were allergic, because we had autoimmune stuff and it's inflammatory, and so we cut out gluten. Both of us are able to eat and handle gluten now with very, very minimal side effects. So it's just, and that was not something I was anticipating. My son used to violently vomit if he was exposed to even a tiny morsel of gluten. And now he eats gluten almost every day. Now we still limit it because it still is inflammatory, but he can eat it now and have no side effects almost, so, yeah.
Just a question about these older folks here.
Yeah.
Like memory from trauma from your childhood and how, right, you lose, spans of your childhood, and then as you grow older, like you're susceptible to dementia and memory issues. Kind of touch on any of those. And the other part of that is tinnitus, which actually I have really bad. And so I know that comes from issues in the brain. So those 2 pieces, are those something that I would address?
Yeah, and I can't address specifically the childhood trauma part of it. However, I have heard amazing testimonies in dementia and Alzheimer's and people that have used it after strokes, where parts of the brain weren't really functioning, but when it strengthened them and kind of woke them up again, it can't treat them, but if we give the tools to the brain and the body to do what it's supposed to do, it can kind of wake them back up. Yeah, I heard a testimony just yesterday about So I personally haven't treated anybody with a stroke, but my mentor has, and she told a testimony of somebody that had lost, I think it was left side of the body use after a stroke, and it was a personal family friend, and so she brought the Neurooptimal right to the hospital and started using it, and within like 48 hours, she had full use of her left side when the doctor said that she would never have it back, so. And in terms of prevention, I mean, the more we do to strengthen our brain before we get to the place where we're susceptible, the better. So.
What about the tinnitus?
Oh, the tinnitus, yes. I don't have any personal testimonies of tinnitus, but that's definitely something, like if it's in the brain, it can go after anything in the brain and strengthen it. Like, it's hard for me to speak specifically on, diagnoses. However, I would think that anything that's involved in the brain, it can strengthen it, and the body just goes after it. That might be something that would take more than 12 sessions, though, because again, it's going to go after the deep rest first, and then the focus, and then it goes kind of in order of priority. So.
Would you suggest that everything like the unlimited package is the best way to go?
Yes.
Because the computer just
Yes, and it's
chooses for you the
yeah, the unlimited package is absolutely the best way to go, and it's the cheapest. Like, that's why I do it that way, is because I want people to see the value. Like, I want people to get the results, right? And so driving to my office 12 times, over a course of a few weeks is going to be taxing on you, and it's going to add extra to my schedule. But if you can take it home for 30 days and use it twice a day, and your whole family can use it twice a day, and it's cheaper, why not, right?
sign me up.
Right. Go ahead.
What's the age limit?
There is no age limit. So you can do it on babies, and you can do it all the way up to when people are, so there's no age limit. Yeah, I have heard testimonies of people even doing it in the womb, but I haven't looked into that. I'm not totally sure how you would do that, because it doesn't seem to, can't put it on their scalp, so, yeah. But yeah, you can do it on babies.
Have you seen or heard testimonies on toddlers?
On toddlers, I haven't specifically heard testimonies on it, but my son did it when he was a toddler, but he did the visual one. So, he just had to sit still for the 30 minutes. But with children, they also can add an element. I personally haven't purchased it because I haven't had any toddlers, but what they'll do is they'll convert the audio frequency to a video so the kids can watch a movie that's actually doing the same thing as the audio. To me, I'm like, or you could just give them an iPad with a movie on it and hook them up audibly. So it's thousands of dollars to get the thing that converts it. So I'm like, even if I had a toddler, I probably would just do it that way. But yeah, toddlers do great with it. So the earlier that you implement it, the more it helps, because the development of the brain is on track. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Can you overdo it? You keep saying twice a day.
Can you
Stop yourself? Come on.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
My head will blow by the next time I will be in trouble.
Not that I'm aware of, can you overdo it, right? I do it twice a day often, just because I do it first thing in the morning when I get up. And then at night, if I have time, I'll do it again. No one in my family does it twice a day besides me, but I'm like, well, I need to be the poster child for neurofeedback, right? Like, I got to get so healed. People are like, I want what she has.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah. What was that?
How long are you wearing it for one time?
33 minutes. Yeah, so it's a great, nice little time to read your Bible and soak. And
Can you sleep with it?
you cannot sleep with it, because if they move, then it's not effective, because it needs to be attached right on the scalp. So you can do anything that's sedentary. So you don't want to be up and moving around while you're doing it, because if they get pulled off, then it's not working effectively. So I just really encourage people to just have your quiet time. A lot of people struggle with sitting still, and that's a problem with their nervous system, right? And this actually allows them to come down quite a bit and be able to be still. So.
So Jim, if you have your machine rented out, do you have access to more than?
Yeah, I have 5. So I rent 4 out, and then I keep 1 in my office. So, yeah. Yeah, I started with 2, and they were just always gone, and so it was really hard to coordinate, because people want to try it before they rent it, which I did that, so I get that. So I just purchased 3 more, so I have 5. Go ahead.
Do you know if like insurance, like out of network, if you can submit it to insurance if it's out of network?
Because I'm not a licensed medical professional, I cannot. But there are licensed medical professionals that do, but I don't have any realm of how to do that or how much it even covers. Most people just choose to pay out of pocket because they don't want to deal with the extra insurance stuff. So, as far as I know, insurance companies in some cases will bill. However, flex spending accounts and HSA accounts, you can use it for that. Yeah. Was there one more question? No? Okay, well, thank you for having me.